Hello, this is Nancy Smith Maddox from Shine Your Light Radio Ministry on WYTV7 in Charlotte. I'm broadcasting from Little Rock, Arkansas, and my guest today is from Memphis, Tennessee. It's really an exciting time. This is going to be an absolutely beautiful interview. You're going to love it. You're going to learn a lot, and you're going to hear from a true young woman entrepreneur who has made it big. I'm really excited to introduce her today. Before I get started, let me remind you that WYTV7 is a nonprofit, and we do take donations, and $5 or $10 goes a long way. What we do with our donations is we promote these shows like this internationally, and we get them out there so everyone can take advantage and listen to what our guests, our special guests for all the broadcasters have to offer. And Shine Your Light, it's not about me, it's about the people that I'm interviewing, reaching you and shining their light on you so you can learn to shine your light. So I'm really excited. Let's get started today. My guest today is Jessica Crenshaw. Very, very exciting. She's an international poet, a consultant, an author, and a speaker. She's been featured on ABC, Fox, NPR, WKAM, and WREC, which is really exciting to me. And she is the author of 6 books, with worldwide sales and positive book reviews from former President Barack Obama, civil rights activist and Professor Nikki Giovanni, and the late author poet Maya Angelou. So I'm really excited to have her today. She's going to share a lot with us and let us just motivate us today, teach us about what poetry can do for us and how she can help. And I'm just so ready for her to shine her light. So without further ado, let's get started. Miss Jessica, so to start things off, please tell us how you began writing poetry and what you love most about it.
Well, once again, Nancy, thank you so much for having me on the show. How I got my start in poetry was I was 9 years old, and even at that young age, I was going through a lot of emotional issues. I had a grandfather that just passed away, and at that young age, it's almost like I had an aha moment, an Oprah aha moment, and I realized that I could either hurt myself, hurt others, or I could start writing. And I praise God every day that I started writing, because as I started writing, I started healing. And it went on from there. I started writing in high school and started to notice that I was falling in love with poetry, that whenever I gave to it, it responded to me. And in 2005, I was in college. This is when I kind of realized that my calling was a poet. I did a poetry slam, and that's like a poetry competition, and I read a poem. And one of my best friends told me that the poem that I recited actually kept him from committing suicide. So from there, I knew that God had called me to write and to let my words heal. And that's what I love most about it, that my words heal people. And it gives me a joy and a fulfillment that really nothing else does.
God's been really good to you. God's given you a gift, and how awesome is that? You said in your comment that you were afraid you were going to hurt yourself and hurt others, and so you decided to write poetry, which in turn helps others. So tell us a little bit more about that. Were those feelings when you were young, when you were just going into your teens, or what led up to that feeling that you may hurt yourself?
Well, honestly, I did not have really good self-esteem. I had, my father had left, and um, I really had a lot of abandonment issues that I was going through. And then, losing my grandfather, the only real father I'd really ever known. I was just going through a lot, around that age, your body changes, people, there's a lot of bullying and a lot of bullying is publicized now. And this was all before Facebook and cell phones and everything. So the bullying was like really in your face, and all of that, it just felt like it was coming down on me. And I remember praying at 9 years old, I said, Lord, I'm in all of this pain and I need help. And I could only hear a couple of words, but he said, start writing. And that's when I just started writing. And I was able to to make sense of what was going on. And then when I read my poetry to others, it connected me to those people, because as soon as I finished reading the poem, they were like, I'm going through that too. So I didn't feel alone. I was like, my goodness, somebody else is going through this. So it helps to establish a connection, and that's even more reason why I love it.
Isn't that amazing when you finally realize that in your trials of everything that's happening in life, and just life in general, that you find out when you give it to God, you give your problems to God, that you find out you're not the only one that's going through that. And it's just awesome that you're such a beautiful young woman that's turned it around, and actually now you're helping people, and you're finding more and more and more that people are in the same situation that you were in, or I was in, or whatever. And when we tell our story or we write our book, it's amazing to me how many people are in the same boat as you are that you can really help. And of course, in my opinion, poetry is absolutely a soothing type read. I mean, it flows well. You read it, and you can really get in. You can really get into poetry. So, that's wonderful. You have a profit business too, and a nonprofit organization that you created. Tell us a little bit about both of those.
Okay, so poets can't live off of words alone, so I had to turn it around and make some money at it. But yes, my for-profit business is actually called JLC Poetry, where I am a poet for hire. I've done weddings, funerals, church services, different type of ceremonies. I'm also a speaker and a consultant. So as far as a consultant, I have over 6 years of corporate experience with recruiting, training. I also do workshops. So people hire me to do leadership training, communications training, writing, creative writing. And I really love that, because I have an element of teaching, and my mom says I love to talk. So that just flies me over the moon there. And also, I just started this part of my practice last year, is becoming a speaker. So I am formally trained in public speaking, leading meetings, event promotion. So that's the for-profit side. But I would say one of the keys to my heart is my nonprofit business or organization called the Spartan City Poetry Club. And we are an official part of the Memphis Public Library. And how that started is I went to a college called Hendrix College, and we would always do something for National Poetry Month in April. So I walked into the Cordova Library when I was at home, I would say one year. I walked into the library and I asked the manager, I said, what are you all doing for National Poetry Month? And he looked me dead in the face and said, you tell me. So from there, the club was born. And we meet one Saturday a month. And we're just a group of diverse people that read poetry and just have an appreciation for it. So it's like I'm sharing my love of poetry with other people that love poetry, and everything just goes full circle.
Oh boy, well, you are a busy young woman, and that I just think that's fantastic. Can you tell me again what the name of your profit business was? I got the nonprofit.
Yes, ma'am. The for-profit is JLC Poetry. So it's my initials and just with poetry behind it. So it's a baby of mine, and we do help a lot of people, and we make money doing it. So I really enjoy that. It's been a labor of love, and I'm glad to see it bearing fruit. So.
Well, I love that, and I love that when God puts us in a position where, we can make a living, because we have to pay the bills, and that's a scripture. And then also we help people along the way too, which I think is utterly the most important thing we can do. If we work from our heart and we help other people, that's going to send us a lot more rewards our way and a lot more blessings. So, boy, you're just a busy young woman entrepreneur. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions now about God and inspiration, and I'm going to give you a heads up that I'd really like to know what your favorite verse is. I always like to do that with my guests just so I can see. But how do you use your gift to glorify God, Miss Jennifer? Miss Jessica, I'm sorry.
You're fine. Hey, I was still going to answer you, so you're fine. Hey, incidentally, I've actually been called Jennifer, so now I just kind of turn around. But how I use my gift to glorify God is, it's almost like He's uh, made me to be a mouthpiece. So whenever I feel He's put a positive word or a word for somebody, as we call it here in Tennessee, I tell them. I have randomly prayed for people, and I said, "Excuse me, ma'am, I know you don't know me, but God gave me this word. Everything is going to be all right if you just let it go." And the lady was like, like a zombie just popped up out of nowhere. But I remember a New Year's Eve service. This middle-aged couple sat in front of me, and um, our church, Bellevue Baptist, is really kind of touchy-feely, so we had to hug people and shake their hand and everything. But at the end of the service, the lady told me that her daughter, was kind of like the prodigal son, just out there, and she was just worried, and you could tell that she was distraught. And the Lord just had me to grab her hand and pray for her. And I mean, we were both in tears. So that's how I use my gift of just, I guess, not being afraid to talk to people or go up to people to glorify God and give people hope. Because that's one of the things, especially in the times that we're living in now, people need hope. People need a reason to keep going. And my poetry and me speaking is a way to magnify God and let people know that He still exists, even though it might not look like it.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Absolutely. And we're kind of kindred spirits a little bit because I'm exactly that way too. I don't exactly stop them and pray for them, but I'm always giving them words of encouragement. And I'm a huggy, feely kind of person too. So I know those looks that you're getting when you do that.
Oh,
'Cause
yeah,
I get
I'm
it.
used to them now. It's just like, well, hey, that's the kind of fearlessness that you have to have for God is, one verse says that if you acknowledge me before men, I'll acknowledge you before God. And I mean, if that's the one time I want to be acknowledged is before God. So I just kind of, swallow my pride, swallow my embarrassment, and just look at it as another assignment. Because if you do what God wants you to do, he's gonna bless you. If obedience is the key. If we truly love God, we have to obey Him. That's what He looks at. Is I'm giving commandments. It's not the 10 suggestions; it's the 10 commandments. So are you going to follow them? And that's what He really looks at. Is if you really love me, you'll obey me. So that's just how I look at it.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that with us, Miss Jessica. That's very enlightening, and I do think a lot of people that watch this interview, and we're gonna really promote it and put it out there like you wouldn't believe, and so will you. And you know, just think if a young woman listens to this and watches this, what kind of encouragement she's going to get from this, because there's so many issues even now about self-esteem, and young people just don't have the self-esteem that they need to have to move forward. So I think it's really important. Um, what words of encouragement or advice would you give to those who have been discouraged from pursuing a career as an artist?
I would essentially just tell them to follow your heart. Now, I was pretty much told that I went to college, and I did the American dream, and I was told to go into traditional fields like law or education, but I really didn't feel like my heart was in it. And with life being as short as it is, you really got to make sure you make use of your time. So if there's somebody out there and their heart is just saying I need to be a painter or a singer or a dancer or a musician, I would say follow that, because that's what's going to make you happy. And at the end of the day, you have to be happy, if you want to love yourself, and you have to be happy to serve God effectively. I've rarely seen any what we call sad saints. So my encouragement would be, is to follow your heart. You know, I know your family is going to have things to say, well, Bobby, you should do this, or Keisha, you should do that. But at the end of the day, you have to do what makes you happy, and just be prepared to work, because artists sometimes in our society is just like, yeah, that's cute, but you have to be prepared to put in the work, to put in the time, and in everything you do, glorify God, and whatever you make sure you tithe it to him, because he'll give it back to you.
Well, that's exactly right. And I believe there's an old saying, I don't exactly know the total quote, but it's something like, if you work and do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life, because it's not
That's
really
true.
working if you love what you do.
Hmm.
And I experienced that in my 25-year career as a credit union CEO. I absolutely loved what I do, and I didn't mind the 60 and 70-hour work week, because I was doing what I loved and I was helping people, and I didn't really mind. I just had a grand time doing my job, but I loved every single minute of it, of helping people. And I think that's a good lesson for all of us, is if find something that's in your heart that you really want to do, and if you love what you're doing, you'll never work a day in your life. It won't be considered work to you. So I think that's great. That's a great thing for you to talk about. And I love how you say for people to follow their heart, because you know so many of us don't. So many of us want approval from our parents and our families, and we don't. They want us to do certain things, and then when we don't do it, we think we're going to be ostracized. And the only way you can get over that is to work your heart out and do what you love to do,
You
and
have
then
to.
prove them wrong. So I love that little piece of advice. How about an advice for young women? And a little bit of encouragement for young women that really are having self-esteem problems.
Um, I I hate to take this saying from a campaign, but it does get better. You're looking at somebody who, I'm still working, I'm there's still, I still need to do some sit-ups, but I've come to love the person that I've grown into. And that's where it all starts. It all starts in here. Now, if you begin to start speaking positive words over yourself, that's one thing I had to get into. And one thing I'm going to advocate, especially in the African American community, is get counseling. In the African American community, counseling is still seen as a stigma, but I'm telling you, counseling changed my life. I went to a counselor. I spoke about some issues, and they have counselors, 1-800 numbers, even if you don't have insurance. I know times are hard, and a lot of us just don't have insurance right now. But any race, any color, any gender, any creed, get counseling. Get someone in there to talk to you, to help you heal from that. So that would be one thing I would tell young women or anybody. And then start, as I said again, start speaking positive words over yourself, because even the word says you will, let life and death are in the power of the tongue. You will eat the fruit thereof. So I mean, you will literally have what you say. So if you say you ugly, don't be surprised when you look ugly. So it's like, but if you say that I am beautiful, I am strong, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, then you're going to start to kind of buck up a little bit, and straighten up your back and move forward into what God wants you to do. So I know all of that is definitely easier said than done. But if you start speaking positive words over yourself and definitely get counseling, that's going to lay the foundation for a turnaround. I mean, it happened to me. I'm living in healing right now, and just love the person that I see staring back at me. And I know that your viewers will too, if they follow that.
Wow, that's some beautiful advice. Wonderful advice. It's just so true. It just rings as so true. I know when I first met you on Facebook, I noticed that you were doing an event in Memphis, and I think it was something to do with the poetry. I think it may have been about the poetry club. I think it was more or less like a book event where people could, get together and authors would be there at the
Yeah.
event, and people could come to that. Tell us a little bit about the events that you do, and then later on, I want you to tell us a little bit about what you got coming up and the events that you're going to and things like that. So tell us about events that you create now.
Sure. Now, with the Spartan City Poetry Club, I create open mic. And for those who don't know what open mic is, it's essentially where We have either a microphone and a stage or just a stage, and people get up and recite poetry. We've even had a theater troupe come in and do a one-act play. So it's kind of almost like it's almost like a variety show. And I mean, we just have people to come in and genuinely share. So I do those events about, I would say about one Saturday a month. Now with the Memphis Public Library, I host workshops, how to publish your own book. So I take what I've learned and giving it to other people. We've had over 50 people in one event, all learning, to try to write their own books. And I also do creative writing workshops, how to speak better. When people have interviews just like this, I've also co-hosted an event with an NBA superstar. He was helping young kids learn how to interview well. So that's just a lot of things that I do as far as my events. So if it's about poetry or helping people develop, I'm pretty much in the middle of it.
That is awesome. And speaking of helping that thing, that's awesome to have an NBA star come in and help you do that.
Yeah.
How exciting is that?
That always helps, right?
I told people before when I started this interview that you're international, so you're an international entrepreneur. But on those open mic nights, do you allow people to sing or rap or anything like that?
Yeah. Pretty much all talent is welcome. So yes, just with the open mic nights, we've had hip hop artists come in. We've had one girl came in and she sung her poem. So she said it was her poem, but she sung it. Like I said, we had a theater troupe come in with Theater Memphis, and just as a teaser, they came in and acted out one act of their play, and we were just so blessed. We were actually surprised by it because that's one thing that's so awesome about the open mic nights is you never know who's gonna come in. I mean, well, I'm praying for a celebrity to just be like, you know what, I stopped in for a glass of water, but I just heard everything and I wanted to come in. But yeah, we have everybody coming in. We've had painters come in. They do paintings while the people do poetry, and then they turn the painting around to show what they felt while the poet was doing their poetry. So I mean, God just really blessed us. I mean, we have people from
I
all
believe
over.
you're really onto something there. That really excites me. I've been watching your flyers about open mic and all that stuff and all that going on. But I think you're really onto something. Do you have any plans for the future to take that to other cities, Miss Jessica?
Yeah, when when God tells me to.
Okay. Because I just think it's such a great concept because you're not really. I mean, it's not like contemporary. I mean, it's not like contemporary stuff like the things that are going on right now, but just people that are godly people writing poetry,
Mhm.
doing all of that, and just you know able to come and express themselves. I think that's fantastic. Are you getting a good crowd at those?
Yeah, pretty good crowd. We have average audiences between 20 and 50 people. So for us, that's good. We're a little bit different from what's on the Memphis poetry scene right now.
Yeah.
And our focus is poetry, so we typically do a lot of our meetings in the library. So we're not in the bar scene or in the lounge scene, and that gives people an alternative from what's in the scene now. I mean, I love the Memphis poetry scene. It gave me my start, but God just called me to do something different, and that's really just the bottom line.
Oh, I love that. I really do love that. Okay, now tell us a little bit about what's coming up, what kind of events we can expect out of you, and what's coming up, and a little bit about where you're going to be speaking. Let's give a plug to those people that are going to let you speak.
Yeah, tell me about it. Um, I mean, my February is booked up. Not only is it my birthday month, but February the 11th, I'm going to be speaking in an event called Spill It Memphis Teachable Moments. So that's going to be at the Spill It Center Stage, and it's at this event venue called America, and it's on 410 Cleveland Avenue in Memphis, Tennessee. So that's number one. And the second event that I have in February is going to be Saturday, February the 17th at the Cordova Branch Library, and that's 8457 Trinity Road. And we're actually going to have a Black History open mic. We're going to have traditional African artists. We're going to have open mic, and I put a little twist on this one. So whoever reads, they can read their original poem, but they have to follow it up with a poem by their favorite Black poet. So we're going to have different displays and just different things to highlight the Black culture and the African American movement.
Wow, that sounds wonderful. We're almost out of time, so I want to kind of start wrapping it up. I'm sorry, the 30 minutes just went so fast.
It did, didn't it?
But I have enjoyed you so much, and I know my guests and the people that watch this show are going to really, really enjoy this. So tell us a little bit about how we can reach you and what your web page is, if you don't mind.
Sure. My website is www.livingbreathingpoetry.com. That's where you can see my menu of speaking topics. So I'm for hire. So if you have any creative writing needs or anything like that, you need me to speak to your group, motivational speaking, definitely contact me on there. If you'd like to contact me directly via email, it's going to be J like jump, L like Leah, C like Crenshaw, poetry at yahoo.com. But really the website is kind of the I would say the beehive of all of the contacts, my YouTube page, my Twitter page, and all of that. So if you visit the website, you can find my email address and just contact me directly and establish a connection there.
That's wonderful. And again, that website is www.livingbreathingpoetry.com for everyone. So to everyone, take a look at that, and let's get interested in what Miss Jessica's doing. She's a fabulous poet. And then also you'll find on her website her books too. She's authored, published 6 books of poetry. So that's really cool. And with that being said, I want to give everyone a heads up too on WYTV7. We are a nonprofit in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we do take donations, and you would be shocked at how $5 or $10 donation goes a long way. And what we use it for is to promote shows like this for me and the other broadcasters that we have. And we want this all to go international, and it is happening now. So thank you so much, Miss Jessica, for your time today, and I appreciate it. And I'm just looking forward to seeing everybody watch this interview. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you again for having me. I appreciate it.
Shine, shine, shine your light. Shine, shine, shine your light. Shine, shine, shine your light. Shine, shine.